Paul McCartney, like, took it to another level on this album. With Eleanor Rigby and For No One and Got to Get You Into My Life and Here, There, and Everywhere. I thought he really got into... He already wrote Yesterday in 65, so... Which is considered by a lot of people to be one of the best songs in rock and roll. If you want to consider it rock and roll, which is up for debate. But it's a different story. But he really developed into his own, I thought. And I thought this is Paul McCartney now became the genius of Paul McCartney.
That's true, because probably everything before was so heavy John, you know what I mean? Like, and there was probably a lot of his, like, influence or takeaway for that. I mean, I know they both co-wrote a lot of stuff, but I feel like there might have been more of a heavy hand where, because John's songs on here, his songs are more psychedelic.
Yes.
But, I mean, lyrically, lyrically, She Said, and Your Bird Can Sing, and Dr. Robert, I feel like he's probably was just like, here's some songs.
Yeah.
But I agree with that.
Yeah,
Even though I skipped a lot of those songs. I can agree. I can agree with that.
I mean, he did "Can't Buy Me Love." He wrote that and everything, and he wrote some of the big ones. Of course, Yesterday.
Yeah,
but
I after like looking at this album in a full, you're right. Like, there's probably more substance to those songs versus like the other ones. I mean, I think John was too busy playing with sounds at this point.
Yes. I mean, this is. I think this is.
Than worrying about like lyrics.
We said we picked this album because it's a good bridge between old Beatles. It's also the transition from, I think, when John was the leader of the band to Paul became the leader of the band. Because then Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band was all Paul McCartney.
Yeah.
I mean, that was his genius. I'm doing quotes. Genius concept album.
Yeah.
Where the concept ends after like the second song, but
yes.
He had this whole plan, and I think that's when Paul McCartney took over. And I think this album is when you see it.
Yeah.
Because I think song for song, his songs are better on this album, I think, than John's.
I'll give you that.
Even if you skip them. Even if they are a little hokey.
They're very
that's
hokey.
Paul McCartney. That's who he is. I mean, come on, Penny Lane and stuff later on. He's hokey. It's just the way he is.
Yeah, well, that was because he was ripping off
I know.
Strawberry Fields, which was genius.
It's a better song.
It's a way better song.
But he's always been hokey. If you can get over that, he's a genius, Paul McCartney.
Yeah.
So,
which is hard because I'm very more of a Lennon.
I've always been more of a Lennon guy too, but
very religious Lennon.
I feel like in my later years, except for the solo stuff, when we talk solo, it changes.
We're not talking solo.
But in Beatles, as I've gotten older, I've definitely gravitated more towards Paul McCartney.
Interesting.
Still John Lennon, I think, number one.
Yeah.
Well, actually, George Harrison's actually always been my favorite Beatle, to be honest.
Mine's always been John, so I always tend to gravitate to his songs. But I also really love his solo career, and I don't know if that has like a big...
Solo career, in my opinion, was definitely better than Paul McCartney, yeah. The Danimal's going to disagree. But
he doesn't know what he's talking about.
He's going to listen to this, so you'll have to respond to Danimal that says you don't know what you're talking about.
He doesn't.
But in my opinion, actually, the best solo was George Harrison had the best solo career. Because all the songs he wrote, they didn't want to put on the album, so we had all these great songs from the Beatles era.
Yeah, that he put on one album.
Yep.
John Lennon had a few really good solo albums.
And, of course, my favorite song that you know what to do with.
Oh, my God.
You've already been instructed of what to do with this one song. We won't get into it.
Yeah, let's not.
But there's a certain song that...
George song.
A certain time in our lives, Melissa.
Oh, my God, okay.
Has to play.
So bad. No, like, that song is ruined. So thanks.
That's what I do.
Get to this last
That's what I do. I ruin things. You knew what you were getting into when you signed that marriage contract. So the last song, craziest song on the album, doesn't even really fit. Don't know how it got on there.
It's my favorite.
But it's awesome.
It's my favorite song on the album.
I don't know about that, but it's awesome.
It's my favorite song on the album.
So the song Tomorrow Never Knows, which I heard I think it's the Chemical Brothers do a great remix techno version of this song.
Never heard it.
It's awesome.
And we'll never hear it.
No, it's good. It's really good, actually. It's really, really good.
Is it?
But, kind of like, The Verve Richard Ashcroft did with, his whole thing there with Bittersweet Symphony. There was them. It was actually Tomorrow Never Knows. Like, you knew it was. He wasn't, like, making a different song like he did. But it's a great song. Anyway, so the original is great. The drumming by Ringo on this is awesome.
Yeah, it's cool.
Nobody gives Ringo any credit for being drums. Everyone likes to rip on Ringo. That's the cool thing. Oh, he's a terrible drummer. No. You hear his drums on this song.
No, it's really
Or a song like Rain or anything like that. Awesome.
Mm-hmm. No, it's good because he gives, like, this really cool, like, he's the steady beat through the whole thing.
The
He's
backbone.
the drone, the backbone through the whole thing. While all this, like, crazy, like, different sounds, and it doesn't make any sense what's going on, but at least you've got that constant going through, so it makes the song, like, it puts the song together.
It's a great title, Tomorrow Never Knows. It sounds like a James Bond movie.
Yeah.
So there might even be a James Bond movie that has a title like that, actually. I think it's Tomorrow Never Dies, actually.
Yeah.
It's a Pierce Brosnan one, but...
This by far, this is my favorite song on the album. I've always loved this song, even as a kid. Like, I just think this song is I love this song. It's brilliant. I mean, like, really, think of it. It's like, you've got, like I said, you got that drone thing going on, and then all these crazy sounds. Like, George Martin's taken, like, he's basically taking backwards recording, like, taking a recording and making it backwards and doing all these crazy things over this drone song. And you gotta remember, back then, when this came out, like, it wasn't like today where you could just put it on the computer and, like, kind of splice it over things.
Right.
It was all, like, was it analog?
Yeah.
And he's got to put all that over, like, what? Crazy.
Yeah.
It was just it's such a cool song. It's totally about LSD. I know that for a fact. It's totally about LSD.
And this is where they started experimenting with the backwards stuff, which then they used as jokes to trick people later, like that Paul McCartney's dead and all that.
But you'll see, they use it a lot more, especially on... Which one's Strawberry Fields on? Is that Magical Mystery Tour? No.
The Strawberry Fields isn't...
Is it Magical Mystery Tour?
Isn't Strawberry Fields not on an album, actually?
No, it's on an album.
You sure?
Positive.
Then it would be Magical Mystery Tour.
I think it is Magical Mystery Tour. But they use, like, the backwards symbol and things like that in it. So good. Yeah, it is on Magical Mystery Tour, because I think Penny Lane's on Magical Mystery Tour.
Yeah.
I think. Pretty sure.
Yeah.
Anyway, but yeah, this is my favorite song on the album. You can dance to it. It's fun.
Yeah, you definitely can dance to it.
It's good. It's a good one.
It definitely has, which is weird. It's got like a techno vibe to it.
Yeah.
Which techno wasn't even... God, you're like 20 years away from that.
Yep.
It wasn't even in the thought of anybody's head. But this song definitely had to inspire some techno guys. Like, whoa, okay, we can take all these crazy sounds and make all this cool music and do all this kinds of crazy stuff. Definitely a cool song. I did not like it as a kid, I can be honest.
I loved it.
I used to skip it as a kid. I used to be like,
really?
What? I'd be like, okay, got to get you into my life, turn off the CD.
This, I think I purposely would skip a bunch of songs just to get that song, because it was my favorite.
But then I got older and, I started getting into things like Pink Floyd and all this stuff, and I was
Terrible.
like, and then I'm just going to ignore that. And then I realized, okay, that song's like really awesome, actually.
Yeah, it's probably like the best song on the album. I've said it.
I have to disagree with you on that one still.
Nope.
But it is a great song.
It's such a great song. It's really is my favorite. I feel like it's like the precursor of everything else that comes after it. With all that psychedelic and backwards. It definitely is. It's
like, what's the album that ends with the backwards talk? Is that Sgt. Pepper's?
Yes.
And they do all that talking backwards stuff. Yeah. So this song definitely, when the rest of the group heard it, they must have. I wonder. It's interesting to see what they would have thought when they heard the song finished.
If you listen to the Beatles anthology, I think it's on album the second anthology. They have like a cut of this song, and it's really weird, and it just sounds like waves. And it's cool to hear what it was before it became the awesomeness that it is. But there's none of that. Like, there's not too much of like the different sounds going on. I think they were just experimenting at that point with just sounds, and it's really cool. If you can check that out and then listen to Tomorrow Never Knows, the actual cut, it's pretty interesting to see what they've done with it.
Now, anybody listening who's not a huge Beatles fan, or if you're a Beatles fan that's just done the basics that everybody kind of knows, and you've listened to kind of the ones that are on the radio or stuff like that, please give this album, and I'll listen the entire album.
Yeah.
But Tomorrow Never Knows. Just listen to it because it's
with headphones.
Yeah, with headphones, so you can get all the stuff. It's insane.
Yeah.
And it's a precursor, and it just led to everything they did on Sgt. Pepper's and Magical Mystery.
Not so much.
No, then they kind of went back to basics with Let It Be and Abbey Road. But the next two albums, just precursor to what, it's awesome.
Yeah.
It's great stuff. So, those are all the songs in the album. What's your overall take on the Revolver album?
This is probably one of my favorites. I always said this one, it was always hard between this one and Rubber Soul, because basically it's a double album.
It's got a cool title, too. Revolver.
Yeah.
That's a great title.
Yeah, it's cool.
It is cool.
The album artwork is really cool.
Yeah.
I used to sit there and stare at the album. Yeah, this is one of my favorites. I used to say it was like the White Album. I'd go through phases. I'd be like, oh, White Album's my favorite, especially when I was a kid. And then, as I got older, I'm like, oh, I love Abbey Road. Now I'm at a point where it's like, this is actually one of my favorites with Rubber Soul. It's hard to pick the two, but yeah, this is one of my favorites. I really love this album, even though I skip a lot of Paul's songs.
See, I always thought the White Album was a little bit better. Revolver is probably number. I love it, but it's probably number 3 or 4 on my list of Beatles. I would put White Album as number 1 because I think they took this stuff and perfected it. Now, there are some weird things in White Album that you can just not listen to. 1 or 2 songs that are kind of like
Honey Pie.
Yeah, and Revolver and Revolution number 9. I like the regular Revolution song.
I see. Yeah,
number 9.
Number
yeah,
9.
So there's a bunch of weird stuff you can kind of skip, but I thought the White Album took this and really made it better. And of course, you have Sgt. Pepper's, the creation of the concept album, which changed the shape of rock. Because then you got all these bands doing concept albums that for years and years, still to this day, doing concept albums.
Yep.
And then I always liked, because I guess it was my intro to the Beatles on an album level, was always Abbey Road. I thought Abbey Road was the greatest way a band could ever go out. Mm-hmm. So I always thought Abbey Road was a little bit better than this album, but Revolver's great. And it obviously came right in the change of rock and roll.
Yep.
Right in the change. Here comes psychedelic rock. Now, psychedelic rock, like all kinds of subgenres, got crazy and eventually gets bad.
Yeah.
Happens with every genre. Happens with, hair metal started out cool, got too crazy,
lame,
too much, oversaturated, bad. Concept, what do you call like Pink Floyd music?
Concept albums?
No, I can't believe I can't.
Oh, progressive.
Progressive, thank you. Progressive rock.
Crap.
Started out really good again, got too crazy, and then you're getting into every band has 20-minute songs.
Terrible.
Yeah. So every type of music. So this was the start of psychedelic, and you got some cool stuff with Mamas and Papas and Donovan and the Beatles, and it got a little crazy. And the Beatles realized that, which is why they're such geniuses. They realized to get out of the psychedelic game when bands were still doing it in 68, 69, and even to 70.
Yeah.
When it was over, Beatles went back to the basics again, Let It Be and all that stuff, because they realized the psychedelic stuff was kind of done.
Yeah, they were over it.
But they weren't the starters of it, but they definitely were
the best
at it, in my opinion. Yeah. That's what people are going to argue. Some people are going to say Frank Zappa and the Mothers of Invention or whatever, but nobody cares about them. So...
Well, the difference is, it's just like when we say, oh, they went mainstream. That was the difference. Like, Frank Zappa was more underground.
Yeah.
And, was doing all this stuff and, being weird. And then the Beatles took it and made it mainstream.
Yep.
Just like Metallica,
Yep.
And Nirvana and things like that.
That's why you're always going to get your haters on those bands.
Yep. Same thing with Green Day and all those guys. They start out underground and it's like, oh, we're going to go mainstream. And
because... they want to make money.
Yeah.
That's the point.
So then here comes the Beatles, and they're doing the same thing. You
want to be a starving artist, then go ahead. By all means, do your stuff underground and have a good life. You want to make money. It's a job, isn't it the point of it? You want to make money, you got to sometimes go mainstream.
Even Kurt Cobain wanted to go mainstream.
Never mind. People rip on that album. Oh, it's their radio one. The album is awesome. Okay, I don't care what anybody says. And you're going to have the cool kids. Oh, Bleach. That was before, just before they became mainstream. And they got Dave Grohl, and Dave Grohl sucks on drums. what was that guy's name? Chaz.